Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Money with Friends. Every Wednesday, we get to come to your home, your house, your cars, wherever you are at work, to share some really great financial advice and also to share, money advice. And I'm so excited because April, as you probably know, is Financial Literacy Month. I posted something earlier on social media to let you know that we are going to be discussing some very important topics pertaining to money. And today our topic is banking matters. Why does banking matter? Because banking, I believe, is the foundation. Banking is one of the foundations of a great financial life. Those who are unbanked, meaning those who do not have a bank account, typically pay more for financial services and also lose out on economic opportunities. And that is true for either an individual or someone who has a small business. We'll discuss that a little bit more. And of course, as someone who is a minority, we know that Black and brown communities usually have a higher rate of unbanked households. And because of that, part of that is because of a lack of access and also a lack of trust. And we want to do some education today because, education is power. And we believe that the information today is going to be powerful. And those who are on the verge of, thinking that should I have a bank account or shouldn't have had a bank account, or those who are still pondering on what some of the benefits of having a bank is, definitely going to learn a lot today. So it's an important topic to us because, again, as I said, that this is Financial Literacy Month, and we believe this is a great topic to discuss on Let's Talk Money with Friends today. So without further ado, I would like to welcome my three great friends who are on tonight. We have a new friend and two returning friends. So I'll give our new friend an opportunity to introduce herself and to let you know a little bit about her and why she decided to be part of the conversation tonight. So Renee, you are up first.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Renee Owens. I am the Vice President of Community Lending at the Cooperative Bank in Rosendale, Massachusetts. I've been in lending for over 30 plus years. And I've always worked at, I want to say, smaller banks. Because I get more of a family feel. You don't become a number when you come to a community bank. It's a family feel. They know you by name. They help you with your issues. Whereas when you go to the bigger banks, you tend to become a number as opposed to knowing you by name. I felt that being invited to this group was important because we're talking to people who are typically underserved or don't know how to be served. And I thought maybe I could just bring a different perspective, especially when we're talking about Black and brown and just people in general, how to be a part of the conversation.
Yeah, working class communities altogether.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Linda Champion, who is my champion, is the person who introduced us yesterday. Actually, Linda, I had called Linda and said, Linda, would you like to be part of the show tonight? Last night and today, and she's like, Gabrielle, I'm busy, but I have a friend. And when she said Renee, I was like, Renee, oh, definitely. She must be very smart. She's a Renee. So I'm so excited to be here because we want to have this conversation. So Lisa, why don't you quickly introduce yourself so we can dive in? And Lisa and Fabiola, we want to get into this conversation. Yes.
I'm Lisa Worthy. I'm in marketing. I am actually really excited to hear the conversation and to contribute as well to today, and excited to meet Renee as well. So looking forward to it.
Correct. Thank you. And Fabiola?
My name is Fabiola. I'm the broker owner of Fab Living Realty, and me and Gabrielle met at a domestic violence event foundation where it was a whole lot of fun, and now we're on here chatting about money.
All right, Let's Talk Money with Friends is the place to be on a Wednesday night. So again, I said earlier that there was a survey, and I think I was referring to that earlier when we were offline. Like in 2019, FDIC surveyed estimated that 5.4% of households, meaning like over 7 million people, are unbanked, right? And also and basically what it meant, like, all these households, many of these families did not have a checking account or a savings account, either at a bank or at a credit union. So first question, why do you think so many households are unbanked? What are some of the reasons why?
Education, trust. I think trust is a big thing, and not understanding the system and what's required to open accounts, to access those services, what's required.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I agree with that. I would say financial literacy. Also, maybe people who are living paycheck to paycheck. That's why we still have cash checking places. So if you don't know how to balance a budget or what you have and try to live either below or at your means, rather, you're likely going to be living paycheck to paycheck. And so you rely on the cash checking places versus going to a bank, because you're likely don't feel like you have enough to do that. So.
Yeah, I like the lack of education, definitely. But do you think, Fabiola, like fear? Because I know some folks have said, what if something happens? We've had banks, of course, who have failed. And so what if something's going on and I need access to my money? Have you heard that same story?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is trust issues, because I think in the past couple of years, probably more than a few of the bigger banks have been on the news, overdraft fees, charging things that they weren't supposed to, opening up accounts without people's permission. When you see news like that, I think people already have a fear. But when you see things like that, I think it adds to the fear. Or, oh, see, this is why I said I never trust banks. And see, I read on the news this happened, or this big bank did this and this and that. So I think it's trust.
Yeah, definitely. So when I first spoke to Renee earlier today, I said to her that I worked in banking for 10 years. I started as a customer service personnel, and then I became the branch manager for a national bank here in the United States. They have branches like in Chicago, everywhere, including Massachusetts here. But I know that one of the challenges that we had as a bank was access. Many households are not opening bank accounts because for many years, families did not have access to or the convenience or access to bank. Now, when you've been in banking for many years, you're familiar with the Community Reinvestment Act and how that really gave communities, Black and brown communities, an opportunity where banks were collecting their monies had to have a present. Yeah.
It opened it up. It opened up the conversation as to what people needed to come in to open up accounts, and having no fee accounts. And same thing on the residential side with getting loans. So it opened up the conversation to the communities to ask the communities what they need. So it was a very big part of the conversation to make change.
Yeah, it's very important because, again, historically, you only know what your parents taught you, right?
Correct.
So if you are and you hear your parents saying, like, I couldn't open a bank account because I couldn't find a branch in my community to open a bank account. And B, when I went to open an account, they asked me for so many questions. So my next question is, what do you usually need typically? Because I know when I was in banking, I would have folks, individuals or a business owner comes in, and I'll be like, okay, thank you for coming. Here's what you're gonna need to open an account, and I'll get pushback. So you are in banking, Renee, and what do you typically need to open up an account?
Well, it's very similar to like getting your license. I just had my license renewed and I had to bring everything.
Yes.
So you want to bring, a form of ID, whether it's your driver's license, your passport. They may want your social security card. It could be a number of different things. Birth certificate. Most banks, if you go in and sit down and have a conversation with them, they'll give you the list. They'll tell you what's required to open an account. And I'm sure there'll be a number of items there that someone can put together to open an account. And they'll also tell you what type of accounts are available, which ones have fees, which ones don't. I strongly recommend. I mean, that is something that I know when I opened my account, that's what I did. Same thing.
Yeah.
Went in and asked what was the requirements.
Yeah. So definitely it's so important to know what you're going to need to open an account. Because part of the lack of education is that many of our households, they don't know that they could actually walk into a bank and open an account, and that again, going back to that check cashing fees, paying, and the check cashing fees is not only with the check cashing places out in certain communities. You have right now banks that are charging a fee. If you come in and you don't have an account with them, they charge you a fee to cash your check. So we don't want that to happen. So do you remember, and I remember way back then when I first opened my bank account, and that was precisely the reason why I didn't want that to happen. I didn't want to have to pay to cash my check because I was working for a department store in Medford. And there was a bank very close to us. And I remember my manager, my first job, actually maybe my second job, because I was like 16 or 17 at the time. And she's like, well, here's your check. But if you want to get direct deposit and do this and do that, you can go across the street because we have a relationship with them. We have a business account with them, and they're willing to open accounts for employees, and it will be a no fee account. And I was like, oh, great. So I went with my first check that they given me, and I opened my first account when I was like 16 or 17. Do you all remember when you first opened your account, and why did you open your first account?
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
My first account, my mom took me to the bank in Jamaica Plain. I'm pretty sure the bank is not there no more. And she got me a passport book. And I was just so confused, and I used to walk around with it, so proud that I had like my little passport book that I can go in and deposit money. So, and I think that began my relationship with the banks. So yeah, my first bank account was a savings account with a passport book.
Yeah, passbook savings, right? Those things, we don't have those anymore, right, Renee? When was the last time you opened your account? The first time, actually. You remember?
I do remember. I opened my first account. I worked at a department store, and the bank was across the street. And I remember walking in and asking what the procedures were. And I opened a passbook account, a savings account, and I would go in and cash my check, and I would deposit into the account. And it was an account that was free account. And now, I mean, very few banks now have passbook accounts. It's very rare, but they do have them. And they have all kinds of accounts now. They have accounts for kids under 18. They have accounts for seniors. They have online banking. They have all kinds of different types of accounts that you can choose from. So the field has opened up a lot. Definitely.
So yeah, you don't want, I mean, we'll talk about the reasons, some of the reasons why you want to have an account. But Lisa, you remember your first account?
Yeah, it was when I got my first job at like 16. And I went to the bank with my mom to open up a checking and a savings account because she stressed saving money a lot. So that was really, really cool to have. She managed it for the first part, and then I was able to manage it when I was 18. So that was good.
Definitely. You just mentioned, Renee, that in terms of like accounts for minors, the Get Me accounts or the different type of accounts that they have for minors. Like I have a godchild and his mom is very frugal. And she's like, don't buy a bunch of toys, don't do all that stuff. Give me cash. And I remember when I was in banking, I used to open up accounts for babies, families that are, more aware, who understand the benefits of having an account and establishing accounts early on for their kids would come in, like the christening money, they would open up an account for that. Or but mitzvah or like birthday monies, they will open accounts for them instead of going to buy the toys or buying a fancy outfit, because they know that discipline is good. I did a presentation with one of our well-known I call her, she's a politician in the community here in Boston. And she said, my very first account I got when I was 19. So I guess for us, at least for me, who wasn't born here, so it's okay for me to have started my account at 17. But I think if you are someone who is born and raised here, it's very important to start your kids early so that they can start building that confidence and understand what's in it for them. So what are some of the reasons why we have account? I know for me, you don't want to leave all your money under your mattress, because what if there's a fire? What are some of the concerns why people should have? And especially if you want to buy a house, you definitely don't want to keep all your money safe here. So what are some of the reasons? I know for me, like I said, safety, convenience. What are some of the other reasons?
Well, it's insured when you have it in a bank. So your money is protected. That's a key thing. I mean, keeping the money at home, if there's an accident or if it's burnt, you can't replace it. In the bank, it's insured. And that's something that I think should be important for everybody, that even though something may happen in the bank, as long as the bank has the proper insurance, your money is protected.
Yeah. And the insurance, $200, losing $200 could be as painful for someone as losing $200,000, because it depends on how much money you have. So being able to take your check or have your check, your weekly check be directly deposited into an account so that you can have the convenience and access and not have all the money in your. What about, you mentioned it earlier, Lisa, costs? Because I think about the fact that some folks are using check cashing places or even going to a branch. My 10 years in banking, I remember days like these, like the weekends coming up, right? Holiday weekends, and you have the line from here to New York. Folks will be lining up to cash their paycheck, right? Instead of getting direct deposit. And I remember part of my job was like, can you please, it's free. Direct deposit, convenience. You don't have to stay in line here for half an hour, but they do. But nowadays, part of the way to kind of deter them from doing it is banks charging a check cashing fee as well. So you think that's definitely one of the reasons?
Yeah, I remember when that first happened to me. I was like, no, I don't want to pay $5 or $3. I need whatever little change that I've made. I want to be able to keep all of it. And so you save money that way, but also with direct deposit, especially now, you get your money early. So you get it before a holiday, it gets deposited early. You're able to manage your funds and see how much you have. It's very convenient as well.
Yeah. Can you think as a broker, real estate broker, what are some of the reasons why you wouldn't want your buyer or the seller to come to the closing with a bag full of money for closing?
I actually have some recent situations, and that so from time to time we do property management, and I had an apartment for rent. And the guy comes and he said, I make more than enough to pay for the apartment, but I'm self-employed. And then I said, okay, so do you have, so of course he's self-employed, so he doesn't have pay stub. Then the next thing is, I'm like, okay, do you have bank statements? Because I can't just take your word that you're making enough money to pay for this apartment. And he's like, no, I don't have bank statements. And I'm just like, okay, so how are you supposed to prove, not just to me, to anyone, that the money that, one, you're actually getting the money that you say you are. Two, that you can afford this apartment. Because I mean, I don't go with you to go pick up your cash, or I don't work with you at your business to see you. So I think it's really important for people, if you want to build wealth, if you want to invest in this country, if you want to buy anything where you have to prove income, if you don't have pay stubs, it's the next best thing is bank statements. And I'm sure, Renee, you know that I know some, like if you go the non-traditional route to get a loan, they have banks stated income loan where they look at bank statements or tax returns. So those are even if you don't trust the banks, if you want to really get anywhere or achieve anything, where you're building wealth, you need a bank account.
Yeah, definitely. I was talking to a sibling earlier today, and she said, well, people do cash transactions. And I'm like, to buy a house. And I'm like, well, the cash transaction is not you bringing cash to the table. You have to bring a bank check. The cash transaction means you didn't go to Renee and get a loan for the transaction because you had the money in your savings. So there are so many different types of accounts. Can we talk about specifically when you go to a bank to open up an account, there are some deposit accounts. Renee, can you talk about the deposit accounts, like, checking and savings and what they do and how they can benefit someone who's looking to open one today?
Well, a checking account nowadays, although I am at a smaller bank, we have checking accounts that have no fees. And that would be for people under 18 and also people over 65 for seniors. So you don't have a fee, you get free checks, and you get an ATM card, and you do get online banking. So there are a number of different services that come with your checking account. Savings accounts, same thing. There aren't any fees. And there's a plus to having direct deposit, and you have direct access to your money. A lot of times people think they don't have direct access to, because the bank is closed. You can go to an ATM, or you can go to a different bank's ATM. Sometimes, depending upon the association with different banks, there won't be any fees charged just by going to a different ATM, or another bank could reimburse those fees. So there are a lot of benefits with opening up checking accounts and savings accounts. Along with that, you get other services. You get to find out about other services like CDs and different loans if you were looking for different loans. So there are a number of services as opposed to going to a check cashing.
Yeah, I was talking to someone, and he said that, oh, I have over, I don't know, I think it was like $20,000 in my checking account. And I was like, you have $20,000 in your checking account? Your bankers never said anything to you about that? What other options you would have to maybe earn some interest on that money? And he's like, no, they never talked to me about it. They've never talked to me about it. So I said, go to the bank and told them that you would like to open up a CD. And so many, we know CDs, the music CD, right? Certification of deposit. It's like a savings account, but you earn
a higher interest rate. Yep.
Yeah, and you earn a higher interest rate, and it's money that you put aside, and you have a term. It might be for 3 months, it might be for 6 months. So if you're someone who's not disciplined and you like to spend money, or you like to give away money, it's a great way for you to put that money aside and have it be locked in for a specific time. I know some folks have gone as far as 7 years. I would not go 7 years on a CD, but at least 2 months. Yeah, 7 years is long-term investing, and we'll talk about investing in a couple of weeks, but you don't want to do that. But yeah, so you talked about it. Well, let's talk to you, Fabiola. You help folks buy homes, right? So in order for them to qualify, right, of course, to get the loan, they have to have credit. Don't you think banking is a great way for you to start establishing credit? And I know for many people, even a secured credit card. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think having a good relationship with your bank, and like you talked about, and having a banker that actually is not just, like also Renee said, that's not just looking at you as another customer that they have to help for the day, that looks at your account and advise you, okay, how is your credit? Would you like to get a secure credit card to start building it up? What is your long-term goals? So that your banker could actually kind of guide you, at least give you your options so that you can decide. I think other than just banking is having a good banker and being with a bank that actually cares. I notice a lot of banks now are offering financial literacy classes, or they adding workshops or to their service because they know that they know the need for it. So I think being one, having a, not just having a bank account, but having a relationship with your bank and your banker, especially if you're just starting out, is important.
Yeah, relationship is everything. And I think for me, one of the reasons why I was very successful in baking was because I'm very, as you can tell, I like to talk and I like to, create relationship. And I would always try to discover and uncover what my clients' needs were, like asking questions. Like, you don't just come in to cash a check. You don't just come in to do a simple transaction, because that person in front of you might need a loan, might need a mortgage, might be thinking about buying a home. If you don't have that conversation, perhaps sometimes they don't want to have that conversation outside with somebody else. But you, as the banker or as the bank employee, can have that conversation with them. I know loans and mortgages and all that stuff. Lisa, beside a checking account or a savings account, your mom, what else? How have your relationship with banking evolved over time?
Oh, I would say also like learning knowledge along the way, making mistakes, and then from there, trying to educate myself on what's out there. And also like talking about the relationships. Yes, find that bank that you go to. Find maybe that one person that does, one or two people that you can go to. So if someone's not there, the other one is, you build that rapport, that relationship, so that person can always understand your needs. Sometimes they may be able to work something out with you. Let's just say you have an emergency. That person may be, they know who you are. They vetted you. They don't need to go and check all your IDs and everything again. And they have that relationship with you. You say, okay, what are your plans for the future? You start to do long-term planning that might allow you to excel in your future plans with your money, of course. And then going
I know. Go ahead, Lisa. Go ahead.
Yeah, and Gabrielle has also been very helpful with me in all areas of life, because not just thinking about what you do from a daily basis with paying your bills, so you're checking and making a regular savings account, but what about for retirement as well? That comes in with investing. But once you've kind of gotten that section down packed, then you can start to move forward and grow in your knowledge financially as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we bank employees, we learn too, because I know I got interested in business and owning my own business by having conversation with business bankers, because I was a business banker. My position over the years, when I was there for 10 years, went from being customer service to business banker to a branch manager. But, being able to have conversation, and you really discover so many potentials, including your own potential. Now, let's go back to loans. I know we were having that conversation, Renee, and I said, you know what? I am 100% for local banks. When it's time for you to buy that house, please go to a local bank to get your financing, because you're not a number. You are
Yes.
a person in case. So can you share a little bit some of the benefits of working with a small bank and some of the difference between a local bank and a big bank?
Well, for me, when you're at a small community bank, I think we're part of the community. So we want to see the community doing well. And we're part of the community. So we want to help our partners, our neighbors, and we want to help people come to the community and stay there. And whatever services that we can offer, especially in lending, there's always some type of first-time homebuyer program. It's about educating someone to help themselves. And that's what we try to do. We don't want our customers to come in and feel like they're just a number. We want them to feel like they're part of the family.
And I think for me personally, I have to say I learned that a little bit too late, because it's so important for me. And I've had clients, young clients like Lisa and others, who would come and say, I'm thinking about buying my home. What should I do? I'll say, go to a local bank. Do not go, because we're all familiar, if you're old enough, with the 2008 mortgage crisis. And many of the families who ended up losing their homes were Black and brown families and poor white families. And it's so important that, for me, if they had had an opportunity to go to the VP, or if they had had an opportunity to speak to the president of that local bank, I don't think they would have lost their homes, because they would have seen them as a community member, and they would have wanted them to stay in the community. Because, I've done many things in financial services, and one of which was a mortgage officer or a mortgage broker. And I used to say, to find, finance, and keep. To find, finance, and keep. And how do you keep your home if every time you're financing it with an organization that doesn't care about you as a community member? So it's very important that we do that. So do you know, who wants to share the difference between, I know for many families who are looking, as I said, I learned a little bit too late, in terms of what's the difference between a big bank, the banks, and also working with a credit union, beside, what we just mentioned here? Why do you think it's so important to have your deposits with a smaller bank, credit union? Lisa. Go ahead, Renee.
No, that's okay. Go ahead, Lisa.
I would say you would know more. I can say from my experience is having better interest rates, whether that's on a credit card, a bank card, or even on a loan or a car loan even. You'll see the difference in that, where I feel like big banks give you the highest standard based on your credit score. It's like they have some weird algorithm that they can plug you in and you're just there. Whereas if someone's able to evaluate your banking, okay, this is how much you bring in, this is how much you put out, this is how much your car is, they're able to say, well, this is the maximum in terms of the best offering rate that we can give you. And they know you. And they help you to kind of give you an insight, not just, hey, here you are, but also educate you, okay, here's the best way to manage this moving forward.
I know in the city now, we have a lot of first-time homebuyer classes. And with the classes, they cover a lot of banking, mortgage products. They talk about credit and different services at the different banks. I know I'm a mortgage banker. I mean, I focus on mortgages and teaching first-time homebuyer classes. But for me to sit down with someone and help them balance a checking account because they've never done it, it's not uncommon. It's very comfortable to show someone, okay, so this is, you subtract this, you add this. You want to be, to make it easy for your client. You want them to feel comfortable and feel that they can come and ask those questions, so that it puts them in a more trusting. You want them to feel that they have your trust. And when you have that, it's a better feel, I think, all around. And it's very easy for the customer to come in and feel comfortable. Trust and comfort is very important.
Very, very important. So we talked about the lack of education, but access and also being uncomfortable. Because I remember my bank started with the cards, the Baybank cards. Actually, my bank was Baybank, my first bank, and I had to go to the ATM to teach my clients, the clients coming in, how to use the ATM. And I would sit at my desk and show someone how to write a check. And then after you've done it a couple of times, they feel so comfortable and they can continue, because many times they don't want a checkbook because they're like, I don't know how to write a check. I don't know how to do all that stuff. So it's very important when you work with a smaller bank and you feel like you're part of the community, you're part of the customer service. We talked about it, Renee. Customer service is not what it used to be anymore.
Mm-mm.
You know, and part of it is because, again, you're just a number. You're not. So we are encouraging everyone tonight to really, if you are someone who has not exercised the option to be bank customer, to have a banking account, or to really start banking because you didn't know some of the benefits of building a relationship with your bank, your local bank. We want to encourage you to do that tonight. Any last words, ladies, before I close this?
Yes, I would say touching base on people who do susus or like, group money thing where they get, a large sum of money. And if they're planning to buy a house or even to deposit that money in the bank, there are certain numbers of deposits that will cause a red flag where you have to kind of declare where you got the money from. So just keep that in mind, that if you are, it's okay, but you just have to kind of ask questions before you deposit, or if you're planning to buy a house and use that susu money, it has to be there way before you actually put it in there. So
no bond bags at the closing. No bond bags. So we were talking about it when I called her for the first time yesterday, and we were on the phone for an hour. But we talked about this producer, high-powered producer in Hollywood, who actually went to cash a $30,000 check, I think. Yes. And there was like some commotion around that. Like, I'm glad you mentioned the fact that there are some protocols that bankers have to follow in order not only to protect your money, but to protect their employment. Would you agree? Anybody wants to talk about that? Renee?
Well, we have guidelines that we have to follow. And what I tell people all the time is, come in and have a conversation with us. We're easy to talk to. We're not going to turn you away. We're going to tell you what the guidelines are, how to work within the guidelines, and give you the opportunity to ask the questions. So if you have a susu and you want to come in and you want to, deposit $5,000, we'll tell you how to do it, what you need to bring. But you can't be shy. You have to, you have to come in, have the conversation. We're willing to talk to you. We're willing to open accounts. Just come in and have a talk with us.
Come and have a talk, because those CRTs, right? You have to fill them out.
Yes, you do. If it's over a particular amount.
Yeah, if you don't, then and that's, I remember my bank, we used to do it for withdrawal and deposits, because we're like, you know what, we want, and like there is a famous talk show host who's been having a hard time with her bank because they're saying, like, they feel like people are abusing her. She's dealing with financial abuse. Like, if you were to come, let's say an older lady or an older man comes to the bank with someone, and I'm noticing that there's a lot of pressure for a transaction, take out 100,000 or take out 50. My job as a banker, I have to be on the alert, not only to protect myself against, crimes that could be happening at the branch, but my job was always to take care of my clients, to watch to see the type of transactions that are happening. So with this producer, him coming to a branch, pass a quiet note saying, like, keep this quiet. And then, of course, he gave his ID and everything. But of course, obviously, the teller wasn't thoroughly equipped to handle that transaction. But I think, people in the media or all over are making a little bit too much of a big deal, because they don't know the pressure that you are under when you see such a large transaction. And so we are familiar, for those who not only have banking, but they have private banking. And this person should have stayed within his private banking arena and called, he should have called his private banker and asked for the transaction, to get the transaction ready for him. By the time he would get to the bank, that money would have been ready, be available and ready for him to pick up. So many things we had to learn. I know for me as a branch manager, I used to do so many transactions that my tellers were not, privy to, because of the fact that, again, we have to protect privacies. We have to make sure we follow guidelines, and we have to make sure that we protect our job. I was saying to Renee that my very first day in banking, or first year in banking, a long-time manager for my bank got fired because she did a transaction thinking that she was helping someone, and ended up being not the best transaction for her. So so many things that we can learn. A relationship with your bank is important. Would you like to say anything, Vibe, before we hang up?
Yeah, I would just add to, like, don't just go shop for a bank. Don't just pick a bank. Because at the end of the day, it's your money. You are giving them your business. So don't just, oh, I want a bank account, I'm gonna go with that bank. Look at what their fees are. Look at their forgiveness policy. Look at how they treat people. Google them, see what the feedbacks are, or right now everyone gives, some people loves reviews. Look at their reviews if they're a local bank. All that is important, because I think sometimes we forget, yes, they're a bank, but they wouldn't be a bank if you wasn't putting your money in there. So do your due diligence as a customer and pick the bank that will work for you. So
Okay.
that's what I would say.
Thank you. Due diligence, very important. And banks are available. They're there to take your money, process your transactions, and also loan you money, because they charge you a fee. But definitely their fees are usually a lot less than you going to a check cashing place or paying every time you need to cash a check. So that's why we would encourage you today. If you're someone who's unbanked, we would encourage you to go and call your local bank. If you are in Boston, call Renee Owens. She'll help you get into a great bank, because I know her bank is a small bank. It's a family bank. It's a community bank. Definitely they'll help you. We lose out on opportunities as families, households, when we do not have the financial services that we need in order for us to establish a great financial future. So this is what I'm gonna say, is that this is Financial Literacy Month, and we started with banking. Next week, we're gonna go deeper and deeper into a conversation about home ownership, because Fabi here is a broker, a real estate broker, and we have Renee, who is a mortgage, a specialist broker. So definitely we want to get into that, because we know building wealth start foundationally with you saving money. But the next thing, you gotta know how money can work for you and how you can create wealth while you're sleeping. Home ownership is one of the ways you can do that. So thank you so much for your time. Call us, reach out to us, but definitely we will encourage you to tag, share, make a comment, let people know, share your story. Let us know when did you open up your first bank account, and why did you open it, and some of the benefits that you've experienced as someone who has a banking relationship. So thank you so much. Please, ladies, do not hang up, but I will go offline right now. Thank you so much for your time. Have a great night.